Asking for some stack effects.
All right, I'd like to call to order the August meeting of our Saugatuck Parks and Public Works Committee meeting. Sarah, can you call the roll?
Chair.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Kimball.
Here.
Roach.
Here.
Stanton.
Here.
Mateo.
Here.
Okay, next thing on the up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions, changes? The one thing I did notice, Keith, was, did you want to talk about the website with the invasive species? And I don't actually see that on here.
Yeah, well, I thought we could do, oh, we don't have.
Well, it's, oh, and if, oh, there we
not
go.
Well, it's actually, yeah, I do. Add that, please.
Okay,
Where do you want to add it?
7E.
we could do it, sure, 7E.
I'll make a motion to change the agenda to add invasive species to item 7E. Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, approved. So anything else on the agenda? All right, now, do we have to vote on it again? No.
No.
We're good, okay. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is presentation. Ken Butler is going to talk.
No, approval of
I-
minutes.
Right.
you.
Madam Chair,
Chair.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from July 22nd, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now we are into public comment and we have quite an audience today. So is there anyone in the room who would like to make a comment
On agenda.
on the
items
agenda
only.
items only? Please state your name
My name is Jeff Scott.
and your address.
I own the Owl House Gift Shop for the past 11 years. I'm a member of the Garden Club and I'm a retired professor of horticulture.
Hmm.
So I'm interested in participating in the committee work and having some input.
Well, we're glad to hear that. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Any other comments in the room? Okay, online? Ashley, I think you're the only one online. Okay. Okay, all right. Now we can move on to presentations. And Ken, going to speak to us about a
Ken
possible.
Butler,
sale.
from Saugatuck Township Parks and Rec. Due to a Good Samaritan and some work by the Parks and Rec Department, our parks are now actually connected. There's a trail that was there that was cleared. And then we engaged Hebner to clear the trail on our side. And it probably was, according to Glenn, an old snowmobile trail, but they matched up perfectly on 63rd Street. Went out there today, we have a 3-foot ditch on actually both sides of 63rd Street. I think the side on the township side is a little deeper. And I got a rough quote from Glenn Hebner about for a culvert and the gravel and fill to bring the trail up to street level would be about $2,000. So what I'm looking for today is an opportunity for one township to work hand in hand with the city to connect the two parks. What I think that would entail would be culverts on both sides. And what I would like to see is a trail crossing sign on 63rd Street. If you Google road signs, you can buy a 3-foot aluminum trail crossing sign for $99, which I think would be a wise investment. Maybe some striping. I don't think we need any flashing lights or pedestrian crossings above that. What I do know is that Pigeon Creek Park in Ottawa County has a park that's actually bisected by a county road. And they have rather tatty old sign, but it says park crossing. And then below it, they say no parking, which I don't think is a real risk on 63rd Street since you'd be parking in a 3-foot ditch. So what I would ask this committee to do is appoint somebody. First of all, adopt the idea that maybe connecting the parks would be a step in the right direction. And then appoint somebody to travel with me up to Allegan County. Initially, we've been told the road commission has no problems with this, but it's always nice to go there. This is what we have and get it in writing from them that this is what they're requiring. Once we have that piece of information, we can look at how much it will cost to accomplish that. Then both sides can look to how we're going to fund that. But yeah, it's just lucky that the parks connect so well. And you're basically doubling the walk that's available to people for a very small cost. Anybody got any questions?
Has it already been approved by the Allegan County Road Commission?
Orally.
Okay,
They-
so we just have to get formal approval and,
We will not be tossed out on our ear when we show up.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
But you know, orally telling me it's okay, and when I kind of anal, I'd like to get it in writing.
okay.
I know one of the goals, first of all, I love this. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I know one of the goals of connecting these two parks is so that the high school cross-country team can have a place for meets and invitationals. Have you talked with Rick Bauer any further about what the path would look like to do that? Like how they would utilize that space, or is that like a
I
next
don't-
steps
I
conversation?
haven't talked to Rick about the possibility of using both parks together.
Mhm.
He has contacted us for a race for the middle school for September 4th.
Great.
So this will be the third year they're coming back, and the kids get to actually have a home meet, which is something the high school kids are still waiting for.
Yeah.
But he's coming back to the middle school. I haven't talked to him about whether we can use the two parks together. I didn't want to be so presumptuous to offer up your park until I heard it from you,
Mhm.
probably in writing, that you're interested in that type of idea. But let's start with getting them connected.
Mhm.
And then I'll meet with Coach Bauer after the September 4th meet. We'll make sure that goes smoothly, and then I'll report back to you.
Okay. Sounds great. Are there any other steps that we need to take, Scott?
I was glad to hear you talk about the road commission. I don't know if they have to issue driveway permits to install culverts, so that might be something worth clarifying with them. I guess initial question is, are there 3.5 or 3.1 miles worth of trails between the two parks for the cross-country camp,
I
or?
think we can get there.
There's
Yeah.
2 miles on the wild side, and I know they've already run the 1 mile that they looped for the middle school track, which is what
Right.
they required.
So the other thing that's happening is that Mr. DeFranco has finally penetrated the company that ran the old dump site. And they are actually going out to do an inspection of the well sites on the property that we own. And they have determined that if they are not functioning, they will be closing them. But I haven't got that, and I haven't seen the report from that yet, but that's supposedly something that Waste Management is. If you press hard enough, he found the right button, and they're gonna come out and inspect the old wellhead. So should we add on that part of land, that'd be a marvelous connection to have all three of them together. But I'll report back to you on that, but no, I haven't given up on that either.
Right.
Ken, you said something about $2,000 for the culvert. Is that for each side?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so basically we would need to fund that on
Right,
our side.
but I figured, but that was just give a ballpark, so it's not like a $20,000 ask. So, and also we'd have to do some changing with our signage in both parts, adding the trail, because now that we both have our maps all done and up, we've now added to it. So we'd have to have some sort of signage. At, the trailheads and where we have signage in the park. And the other thing I think I would probably want to do is get one of those small stop signs on the trail. So if you are walking or running across and we make it nice and smooth, you don't walk out in front of a car. So we're gonna have something on the trail side saying,
Mhm.
you're crossing a road, cars don't stop, please don't get hit, it makes a mess.
Is that something you'll be kind of working with the road commission on, like who would have the right of way, the trail or vehicles, I'm
I
assuming?
just want to get it clear from them, what signage do they want? Who's gonna pay for it? And who has to install it? So as long as we have those questions resolved. And whether it's your DPW, Glenn, the road commission, there's a way to get it done. You have to go and ask first.
Does that involve a meeting at their meeting or with the head of the?
My first thought was just to call him up and make an appointment to go meet with him. If he wants me to appear in a meeting, and actually put a shirt and tie on, I can do that too. But, let's go ask and see what he wants, and you show me the hoops and I'll go through them.
Lauren, what do you think, as far as steps for? us
Yeah,
to
I think
take?
once you get your information from the County Road Commission, then I would want you to present in front of City Council at a workshop. I will talk to the mayor about that on when we could get that on an agenda and have you present to council. And hopefully we would get that, through.
All right, and if you want me to just go by myself to Allegan, I will. I just want to let you know that I'm doing it. I'm speaking for us both because I think the park should be connected.
I'd be more than happy to go down.
Yeah, is it
Yeah.
okay if we send someone with Ken from our committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
I always want to make sure we're not
Yeah.
usurping our.
Yeah, I mean,
authority.
you're just getting the initial information to, eventually present to council. So,
Not spending one dime of Saugatuck's money.
no, it's
So we're
wonderful.
good.
No, I appreciate it. I'm not even implying that. so.
Well, and I can speak to, my son and I hiked the wilds last weekend and we went along the trail that would be the connective trail, and it's actually in pretty good shape. And I'll talk to this at the end of the meeting, but we are doing that Environmental Stewardship Day with the 8th graders, and that is something that that is a portion of the trail that we could be working on a little bit too while we're out there. So it'd be great.
Okay. All right, so I
Thanks,
think,
Ken.
Report back when I know more.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you, Ken. Okay, next on our agenda is Pocket Prairies, and John Cleese is here with us to present, and Sarah is going to be able to bring up his presentation. There it is. And just to give you a little background, I got connected with John, and that was basically kind of started with, Jason Myers, who lives on the corner of Grand and Mason Street, has, some native plantings, and I was interested in where did those originate, and found out that John basically was the landscape developer that had put all of that in. Also got connected with our resident here, Randy, what's her last name again? Thank you. And Randy had the great idea that, gee, that looked so well, and he lives across the street, from Dr. Meyer's property, that that is the end of Lower Mason, and there's basically just a hillside that's got random whatever planted itself there. And what if we expanded that area so that it also included native plantings? Wouldn't that be fantastic? And of course, that would also, basically kind of work in conjunction with our goal for Pocket Prairies. So I was able to connect with John, and we looked at some different things and took him to the Peterson Preserve, and he's got lots of ideas of how we can move forward.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry I was late. I thought it was 10 and.
It is
made
10.
So, please here, I was a little fast out of Again, John Cleese, I'm a board member of Restoration Earth and also own Lakewood Back Garden and Design, which is a native plant landscaping firm here in Benville.
If you could stand behind the
Oh, sure.
microphone, because the people online and
Sure,
we recorded.
absolutely,
So,
even with
good.
my loud voice, gotcha. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit quickly about Restoration Earth, quick little education on native plants, and then the 3 areas that we are speaking with Nancy about possibly doing. Next slide. So this journey, how we got to Restoration Earth, is really a journey that we hear a lot from people. Now, this is the story of Micah Dickinson. He's a co-founder of and the president of Restoration Earth. Next slide. Micah dreamed of this, right? Like a lot of people do. This is what we think our landscape is supposed to look like. Beautiful emerald green lawns. You can see clipped yews and boxwood hedges. I look at that and see a lot of work, fertilizer, water, and some of you that have those lawns probably know that too, and a lot of money. So that's what he dreamed of. That's what he thought he wanted. Next slide. This is what he got. Pretty close though. You can see some drought there. It's a little bit dry, but he didn't always have a landscaping firm work with him. This is up in Robinson Township outside of Grand Haven. Lots of big grassy areas surrounding homes. So this is what he had in the summer of 2021. Next. This is what he did: fertilized, water, aerated, mowed. So he got algae blooms in his lake. He got fungus and disease. He got lost weekends, and he spent a lot of money on his lawn, and he still couldn't get it to the emerald green look. Next slide. So Micah was headed out of town, and he told his landscapers, don't fertilize because my irrigation is broken. So they listened and promptly fertilized twice while he was gone. And this is what his property looked like at the end of July of 2021. After that, he never really liked his property, never really felt it was alive. He's an outdoor guy, divorced father of 2, and just thought there's another way, and I'm not going back to what he did before. But he realized that it was very difficult for him to do this himself. There's just not the resources, unless you go to professionals, to do large landscapes like this. It's just not available to the public at the moment. Next slide. So he reached out to me and through my colleagues. So this is what the property looks like just before November 2022. When you seed a meadow, it looks very much just like you're about ready to do grass seed. There's a little bit of debris in there that wasn't there when we did the final seeding, but we got rid of all of his grass. Next slide. This is the summer of 2023. Now, I will say most meadows don't come in this quickly. We actually think there was a lot of fertilizer that was left in his lawn. This was really astonishing that it came in that because you don't want to fertilize native plants. But that's what he got. So he just thinks this is what it always is. That's year 1. Next slide. And this was just a couple of months ago now. Micah is surrounded by all these neighbors with these green lawns that were drying up despite, you saw this during the drought, like little patches where the irrigation worked. His meadow sung right through the drought. More importantly, this was really transformational for him. He couldn't believe now the birds, the insects, all the light that came back to his property. It was transformational for his sons, identifying insects and birds and plants. So he was like, you know what? We need to change the world. We need to start an organization for all homeowners like me that really want to move into this type of a landscape. So that's the origin story of how we developed the Restoration Earth nonprofit. Next slide. So the goals of our organization is to really build on what homeowners already want. All of us that are working native plants, there's more work than we can possibly do. We're already into the fall of 2026 for stuff. There's a ton of work. Homeowners just want a different way. They don't want to spend all the money on the lawns and the mulching and the water. We need to increase the wholesale growers, get more plants into the retail outlets because it just simply outside of county plant sales and a couple of organizations, it's hard for you to find the plants. Promote native landscapes to the lawn care industry because if you ask them to do it for you, they don't know what to do. They're just going to give you a mini golf course around your lawn, around your house. And then work with government agencies and private foundations to promote the use of native plants. We're working a lot with Ottawa County right now. They have a water shortage and some of their wells are going dry in Ottawa. So they're trying to get people off of the irrigation. So we're working with them and probably late this fall, we'll announce a program there. We're going to start incentivizing homeowners to start ripping up their lawns, and Ottawa County will provide money for the plants or some sort of financial assistance, which is happening in other states around the country. Sorry, I'm going to talk really fast like New York to get through this. Next slide. So what is a native plant? People ask us all the time. The very loose definition is that any plant that was here before European settlers, right, which would be 1492, if you remember our history. What is not a native plant? We just go to the University of Michigan and let us tell it. We're not going to reinvent all the work that they do in terms of invasive species. The stricter definition is any native plant that wasn't brought here by humans, which some will say natural, which is kind of funny because we are natural, we are part of the ecosystem. Next slide. And that's also hard to trace because 23,000 years ago, we have evidence humans were already cultivating grass and seeds for food. Go to 11,000 years ago, the last glaciation, it's hard to believe that humans would not have brought seeds with them when they migrated around the world to North America. So what's untouched by humans, hard to say, right? Next slide. So why use the native plants? Just a few things. They are lower maintenance. For the most part, all of the work that you do in your gardens is to freeze everything where it's at. If you see mulch between your plants are too big or you don't have enough mulch, right? And so it's that endless amount of mulching. Nature doesn't like bare spaces. It mostly tries to fill it all in. And all of the work that we all have is mostly because our plants, we don't have enough of them. Even weeds grow in mulch. Less water, you only need water during the establishment period. Depends on when you plant. If you plant in the spring or fall, that's probably 4 to 8 weeks. If you plant, midsummer, you're gonna water throughout the rest of the season. You don't need to water after the first year. Trees are watered for 2 growing seasons. So if you're watering after a landscape, after 2 years, you have the wrong plants. I know it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that, but there is no reason to be watering plants if you have the right plant in the right place. So someday we'll look back and think the fact that we were wasting fresh water to grow plants that should be growing by themselves outside is going to seem a little bit ridiculous, I think, to our ancestors. No fertilizer. You saw what happened at Micah's. It's fine, but they really don't need fertilizer. Poor soil is one of their survival strategies and one of their ways that they beat out weeds, which like moisture and rich soils. And of course, supporting the local pollinators. Next slide. If some of you have never seen this before, on the far left is bluegrass. So that's about an inch or 2 of root system. This first line is 1 foot, and you can see the 6, 10, and 14. This is all of the native plant root system. So this is why native plants are now working into green infrastructure into towns and cities. They absorb the water, they slow the runoff. It's a desert under your lawn. So when it rains, you may not see it because the dirt isn't flowing out in the street, but so much of the water that falls on a lawn runs into our drainage system. There's nothing to absorb it and keep it deep into the ground like these roots do. So it breaks up the soil, it aerates the soil. It's always got new roots, dying roots. It makes it more organic and it really slows down the flow of water. So you're seeing a lot more of this in green infrastructure projects. Next slide. People say native gardens look messy. They certainly can. But remember, a native plant is a plant. Formal is a style. Right? I could take native plants and wrap them in a thing of boxwood hedges and it would read as formal as anything. Not that I would do that, but you could do that. Some clients like the wild look. So when you see wild gardens, sometimes that's because what they wanted. But there are some strategies. Next slide. Mowed edges, that shows intention. So wherever we can do mowed edges, it shows intention that those plants were meant to be in the gully. Next slide. This is Sandy Collins' garden up on the hill in Saugatuck. Those of you that know Sandy, she's the neatest person I've ever met. Nothing is out of place. She loves her native gardens and she had a gravel border edge put. So that reads just as formal as any other sort of non-native garden could up there on the hill. Next slide. And of course, signage. Next slide, that helps, shows intention. So seeded meadows we're using for larger meadows. They're less expensive than plugs. They don't require mulch. They don't require water. They're not great for slopes. It's debatable about how much less work they are. But the biggest downside is it's a slow coverage of growth unless you're Micah's property that has the fertilizer in it. Next slide. And this is so you can see the prep on the left, and there's a seeded woodland meadow. Next slide. Plugs are smaller. They're about 4 inches deep, about 1.5 inches. Within 1 to 2 years, they cover the ground. They're usually better for slopes. The downside is they require mulching, they require water, and they're more expensive than seeding. Next slide. There's some plugs there. You can see this is off in Gaslight Lane. After the 2nd year, you can see the growth that comes in. And another strategy is to use the smaller grasses along the edge so it doesn't read as wild for people when they walk by. Next slide. This is in Union Street in Wiley. This was plugged last year. Next slide. And this is this year. And those of you that know that area, it's the worst soil in all of West Michigan. And it's amazing that the stuff even grows. It's horrible. But got a lot of mint and grasses, and that's the first year of that meadow. Next slide. This is off Yamato Lane. Again, same area with the worst grounds of anywhere. They decided to do all native grasses in the bottom first. We added more of the flowers this year. Next slide. And this is what the grass looks like this year. Never watered that, because of the clay. Was super afraid, kept putting never needed to have this water to get that to grow. So that's what the base grasses look like. Next slide. So for the Saugatuck projects, this thing that we've talked about, that I talked about with Nancy, was the nature preserve, the Mildred Peterson Nature Preserve, the Mason Street Hillside, and the Coughlin Park Drainage Basin. Next slide. So here at the Nature Preserve, what we thought was we'd do a deer-resistant sunny garden, perhaps in this grassy space. Underneath the shrubs show sort of a grass alternative using carex grasses and shade plants. And of course, while I was out there, the deer showed up just to remind me that anything that they plant, they're gonna watch and they're in there to eat them. But we've really got a good list, I think, now. Next slide. There's the Mason Street Hillside. So it's hillside. This is during, right before we got any rains. Pretty dry slope, part sun. And so that was a project that we also identified. Next slide. And then this is the Coughlin Street Drainage Basin. So this would be an example of a rain garden on the bottom. And of course, the drier slopes would have different plants, but that could be really something over there. Next slide. Oh, thank you. All right, there we go. I got through it. Whoosh. We did leave pricing and other stuff into questions. So if you have questions and if it's about pricing, we can go to another slide. I didn't know how we are on time.
I was just curious, sandy soil, obviously, there's a lot of areas with sandy soil, and what do you suggest? for
Right,
those?
sandy soils are great. You know, you can't, first of all, you're not going to overwater them, for sure. But there's a lot of plants that grow in sand. Sand and clay is good too. The problem with clay is it just doesn't, just with the water, but there's a plant for every type of soil that we all have. There's plenty of plants that grow in pure sand, that are fun to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not an issue.
And a question for Scott, that hillside by Dr. Myers, do you mow that?
The Allegan County Debts crew weed whacks it down. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's what's currently done to maintain that area. Okay.
Other questions?
I'm not copying things down. Now, as if I come up with questions along the way, I think, in 2 days, can I go to restorationearth.org, a website, and kind of look things up and say, okay, I'm thinking about this?
I'm sorry. repeat the question.
Can where, if I'm thinking about something in the next 2 days, can I look on Restoration Earth
Yes.
and kind of get some idea of what I'm, questions and answers that I may have?
Yes, and also you can go there, and then you can also go to my website now, the Lake Effect Garden and Design.com, which has more stuff.
So, and John, what does your business encompass? I'm sorry. So do you do the plans? Do you do the work? What's your role in this?
We can do all of that. It depends. So for with Ottawa County, we're collaborating with their Public Works Department. Some of what we're going to be doing with them is we're talking about sod removal to help homeowners, because if they don't want to use herbicide, if any of you have ever used a sod cutter, it's very difficult, especially if you have a well-manicured lawn, to get that out. Or we can do all of the work. Restoration Earth can do all of the work. So just sort of, it gets a little bit confusing, but I'm basically winding down my private business, and we're transferring any of that work now sort of under the nonprofit. So we're doing less of the smaller residential and now working towards the corporate campuses, large residential demonstration projects like with builders and things like that to help fund our educational things that we're working on.
Got it.
So that's why Saugatuck was a good fit for Restoration Earth, because what we also realize is unless you go to a botanical garden or someplace, most people just never bump into a native plant garden.
Mhm.
So we're never going to make this movement and change people's behavior until they can see it and see it in a way that doesn't look like the early gardens.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about, you and I talked about the deer-resistant demonstration garden?
Yeah.
That we were considering for Peterson Preserve potentially.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be really fun to plan it like you were a farmer and basically do rows that we could have signage, just something to really stop people as they drive by. So you have like rows of, orange butterfly weed, mountain mint, different Augustachas, but put them in rows of color. Or you can even do it in a quilt fashion. Just instead of just showing like a natural garden, these are all natives, but really show it in a way that looks like production oriented, people could walk by and see a lot. And I will just tell you, I know homeowners, everybody wants to know, how do I plant stuff that the deer aren't gonna eat? I mean, I had a video yesterday from a client where the deer, they're eating ferns now.
They are.
Ferns.
They come right on my porch and eat my ferns.
Yeah, they never ate ferns before, so they're eating ferns. So that's
Now they nibble on them. The problem with ferns is, unlike other stuff, it doesn't necessarily grow back right away. So if they nibble on the fronds in the beginning, it starts to die and looks terrible. But they're not nibbling the ground, but they are eating ferns. The only thing that they really don't eat is grass at the moment. After last winter, which was particularly tough, really the best stuff is any plant that's really got sappy, toxic moisture like the milkweeds, or heavily perfumed like mints. And other things that have a smell, that seems to what stops them. It's not true about the leaf is rough, they'll eat thorns, they don't care. They look at you like, nice try, right, I'm eating that.
Yeah.
And last winter, of course, they were eating white pines, they eat dogwoods, they eat concolor firs, they nibble. They eat rhododendrons, which nobody had ever seen them eat rhododendrons before. I mean, they literally strip every leaf off some of these properties, so.
One of the things that you mentioned is like the first couple years needing to water. So if like on that hillside, there's no irrigation there or anything like that, so how?
Yeah, well, we had some residents, like Mr. DeRosa volunteer to help
Water it.
at least get them established, if I
Okay.
remember right.
Same thing, so between the two of us, we can get coverage.
Okay, I gotcha.
I'm trying to.
That's so nice. But yeah, like being able to establish those and then not have to water them after a couple of years is really incredible.
Yeah, and the plug ones and you won't have to, for instance, something that was established in the springtime, you can really be kicking back the water after 6 weeks. Like now when I say the springtime, most native plants aren't really even available until beginning of June. And last year we had a frost in some areas almost the last day of May, which reminded all of us to respect last frost-free dates, because sometimes we skip right on, until later. So for hillsides like that plugs, but it's also possible that we could seed something like the Mason Street hillside with, and we would have to use coconut blankets, so that's what we do sometimes. So it's all prepped, seeded, the blankets are put down, and then you don't water it. The downside with that, of course, is it takes multiple years for that to grow, unlike the Myers, which was plugged on that side, which is huge. And also, I do want you to like Tracy, they all love big plants, or Dr. Meyer, so like that's why that was so, it's very big.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be big like that, but that's a big one.
And a question I don't know, Peterson Preserve, does that have irrigation?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Coughlin too, like where the,
Coughlin
the
does.
ditches.
I didn't know if Peterson Preserve did, but
Yeah.
okay.
Does the coconut blanket, is it biodegradable and
Yeah.
completely,
Yeah.
unlike the roadside?
I use the synthetic, like if you're doing like along the shore and it's super steep, but the coconut blanket starts to go away and you really won't need that. And there's also when we do that too, we can also put in a lot of sort of annual oat or annual ryegrass, just like the farmers use as a cover crop. So while, they'll put their roots in the ground and the native seeds take a while because they're really working on their roots, but they can all sort of coexist together and you get at least one flush of the annual grass. That won't come back anymore, and then the native seeds start to come back.
Can you talk a little bit about, let's say, Mason Street hillside, just what would the cost be if we were to do it with your?
Sure, can you, click a couple more slides there? Okay, so stop there. So at first I looked at plugs, so we're backed into a bunch of stuff to try to get to a per plug price. So all inclusively, I came up with about $5.56 a plug. So we plant plugs 1 foot on center so that they quickly cover the ground so that you don't have to mulch after the second year. Sorry, just go here.
And that's everything, site prep, mulching, et cetera. It's not perfectly scalable for larger projects, but it's pretty close. So a 20 by 20 meadow, if we were talking actually about the preserve, 400 square feet, 400 times 556 is about $2,200 to do that. If we want to go to the Mason, I figured Mason Street is about 4,000 square feet. So that gets a little bit more pricey if you're talking about a 4,000 times 556. So if you go to the next slide. So kind of simplified, but based on 1,000 square feet, I came up with about $1,535 per 1,000 square feet. So that includes all the prep, the seeding, the blankets, and of course, there's no watering and there's no mulch. So I went to that because otherwise Mason Street's probably like 18 grand to do the hillside. Definitely worth doing smaller ones with plugs because that just really won't look like anything for a long time, but something that large, you could definitely consider doing the
seated on like the Mason Street. So for Mason, 1,500 times 4, so 6 versus 18.
And how would it be different for Coughlin Park where that's actually more of a rain garden?
Coughlin Park, I would do plus. I think I would do plus. First of all, the seats are hard in the drainage basin, so down below, and I'm not sure how much that actually fills after a rainstorm. It's just kind of a dry thing. So there's a little bit of moisture down there. Well, it's also just cooler in general down there in the hole. I would do plugs with that. I just also think there in that park with those parks, that just feels to me it would be a faster growth. I think that would be a beautiful demonstration project, not only for the residents, but just for visitors that are in the park to see all of that done. And I would say the same thing for the preserve, because like a 20 by 20 bed, you could put in for like $2,000 or so. And it, again, within the next year, our signage means something. So we're trying to get people to get over there. We've got signage of the plants. What are they looking at? But senior projects are neat too, because like, what am I looking at? Well, this is what's happened, and then they can see each year of the growth.
Do you ever work with volunteers? Good question.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying with our garden club or anything like that, if there was an effort by any means.
It depends, we can move so fast. I mean, we can plant 7,000 plugs, not quite a day. We can get 5,000 done in a day. So we're going pretty fast with the drills, because you drill.
Ooh,
And
nice.
then with that, and so I think volunteers can be helpful, but we just have to, then, you're managing the volunteers. You can't go as quickly with volunteers as you can with people that you're paying to get the
Sure.
work done.
Sure.
But I'd love to involve people. I was trying to find if there's a different way to involve them, like maybe somebody wants to help create the signage, or someone wants to do, something else. But I'm not sure, like, for instance, Mason Street, like, would we really want volunteers like on the hill trying to kill grass? We definitely don't want them rolling erosion blankets and nailing
Sure.
stakes into the. It sounds like not a good thing for the city.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay, all right, well, thank you, John.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I guess I would just say, Lauren, what would you think would be our next step if we want to just pursue doing something like this with council? Yeah,
That's a good question. Obviously, it's usually, we would have to talk about it at our strategic planning meeting, as far as something that we would have as a priority for the coming year. We usually do that in December, January-ish. New council could be on, after November. So there could be a change in council. So we could see what an appetite for all of this would be at our strategic planning session.
okay.
Yeah.
When's is it Mason Street that's slated to be done?
Maple Street?
On the hillside?
Mason Street, is there any work planned
Road
there?
work?
No, I'm sorry. The hillside next to DeRosa.
It's the
Yeah.
Mason Street.
That's
Oh, that's Mason.
Yeah.
Is that hillside slated to be done?
There's no plan.
There's
This
no-
is just kind of preliminary discussion at this time, so, but yeah, kind of thinking through, any possibilities of exploring the option and ways to get it done if we can, but.
Because I'm thinking once that hillside's planted, it'd be a good site to actually use as a promotion for the other sites.
But that was kind of the idea behind the Peterson Nature Preserve, at least from like Public Works' perspective. We thought that the area that we're trying to cover was not oversized, and so it would be somewhat minimal cost. I wouldn't say minimal effort, because I know I've heard stories, but but yeah, we were really open to having that. We are still really open to having that kind of be like the pilot program. And I love the idea that that was brought up about having different rows. Like for me, a lot of ways that I've learned about different plant varieties is just going to a nursery, and they have tags. They tell you the size at maturity, sunlight tolerances, everything you need to know. And to kind of have it laid out in rows like that, it would be easier for people to identify what those plant varieties are and maybe incorporate them into their own yards if they wanted to. So, but yeah, back to Lauren's point, I think ultimately council is going to steer the ship on this one, but
It's good information to get started, though.
yeah, and I know that there were just needs, for Peterson Nature Preserve. those flower beds, you know, it's a park that's kind of on the outskirts of town. And so we tend to channel more of our limited staff resources in town itself. And so they were looking a little bit bare. So for that reason, we were more than willing to accept the help on that. So.
Great.
And I just have to add a comment on the Peterson Preserve before we move on. So I did initially plant 2 swamp milkweeds, and of course, everybody knows monarchs need the milkweed in order to feed their babies. And one of them, of course, died right away or got eaten, but the second one thrived, and we found monarch eggs on it, and now we even have caterpillars. So it's pretty exciting.
Where you go, Mom?
Me, it just doesn't get any better than that. Okay, all right. So I think we're ready to move on to our discussion items. So the next thing would be Mount Bald Head and the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area Invasive Species Removal Revegetation Update. And we talked at our last meeting about how we could move forward, you know, with those 2 projects. And we decided that we would go ahead and consult a couple of different organizations. So we were able to reach out, basically, Kelly was able to reach out to ODC. And then I had some prior experience working with Kalamazoo Nature Center. And we weren't sure if they would actually, you know, come this far, you know, because it's a bit of a trek. But I called them, met with Luke Allison is his name. And I said, hey, I'm interested in, you know, finding out if you guys can help us out with these projects. And I started just to describe them. And, you know, that's when basically Luke said, oh, I know exactly where those are. I graduated from Saugatuck High School.
That's great.
So it was great to know that we had somebody who, you know, knew the area. And then anyway, the reason I had also reached out to Kalamazoo Nature Center was because when I first moved to my home about 6 years ago, and it's right by Peterson Preserve, you know, I noticed all of the purple loosestrife, you know, and other invasives. And, you know, I was so concerned to see if there wasn't anything we could do about it. And so I just kind of called everybody I could. And anyway, I did have Kalamazoo Nature Center come out, and for a small fee, they kind of surveyed it and came back to me, you know, with some of their thoughts about what was good. And a lot of it is good. But anyway, I knew that they had been willing to do that. So I thought, well, maybe they'll help us, you know, with these next projects. So we basically had both of them come out. And then Kelly, you also tried to reach out to another organization.
PLM, and that was just, we just sort of were,
It's just you've not been able to really
Right.
connect with them and get anything to happen.
yeah.
I got
We've
connected.
been bounced to a couple different people there and not had great success with
Yeah.
them coming out, so.
I got a hold of PLM years ago, I think when you and I first started chatting about the Peterson Nature Preserve, because one of the big problems with the purple loosestrife in the preserve is the logistics of you know, how to treat it out in this kind of marshland. And then it seemed like PLM started, you know, they really had some interesting treatment application options for us, which one was like a helicopter treatment, and then another one was like a hovercraft that they have in-house. So it was like, okay, they seem to have tremendous capabilities if they have those kinds of pieces of equipment. But yeah, but they're, to Kelly's point, I think, if I remember right, they're like out of Indiana or something like that, that they're not,
I don't even know.
they're not exactly
Local, yeah,
It was tough
okay.
to get them to take a look at our project. But.
Yeah, so the conservation team from ODC came out last Wednesday, and I just spoke with the director as far as when we might have a turnaround for a quote, and it looks like early September is what we're looking at. And Scott had added, so we had him look at Mount Baldy, the revegetation of that, Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area, because as you know, we have the endowment and the management plan is in compliance, so we can move forward with some trail maintenance as well as invasive species management out there. And then there's some needs through DPW with some of the infrastructure and road work that we have coming up to tackle some invasive species. So we also had them look at Maple Street. So we're very active with this right now, which I think is really positive for the city to kind of get that whole invasive species plan in order to make sure that we're
So
getting things done in a
are
timely
we seeking
fashion.
bids from those 2 different organizations, and when will we have those bids?
I think we should be able to have everything by our next meeting.
Yes, so
Is that?
the director said early September.
It's gonna take the Kalamazoo Nature Center some time to canvass and get themselves familiar with Mount Bald Head and the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. Obviously, there's, you know, almost a couple hundred acres out there for them to canvass. So but the goal, they know what our goal is. They know that we're in this for the long haul. And so, you know, it's broken down into a couple different pieces. There's the invasive treatments, invasive species treatments, but then also too, there's the revegetation of the slope. And so they're going to come back to us with a few different options. Like one would be just to straight up contract it out, have them, you know, go ahead with replantings based on their recommendation and also the Allegan Conservation District's recommendation. Or they could do, you know, some sort of a volunteer-based effort where they could kind of provide some general guidance, or they could do kind of a 50-50 hybrid between the two. Like they provide, you know, some staffing and also some volunteer efforts to actually get the plants in the ground. But they liked the idea of kind of having, doing both of the invasive treatments and the replantings at the same time. That way, when we're actively removing root structures from the invasive plants, we already have some other species that their root systems are taking hold of the ground at that point. So it would be a little bit better in terms of erosion mitigation on that. So I think Nancy was really pushing hard to try to get some info at this meeting, but they do need a little more time just because the size.
And it's their busy season for both of those places right now. So they're happy to have them out, quite frankly, to be able to move this forward. So.
Okay. Okay, Dark Skies Initiative. Judy.
So I did finish my mock-up of the informational page, which I have available. I have some hard copies. But at this particular point, I think we kind of wait to do anything with that until we understand sort of what types of community outreach or events or things of that nature might be a good fit for us. Tomorrow I am meeting with the Dark Sky Michigan chapter lead. Her name's Robin Portine, and she is in Ida, Michigan. But she has suggested that she may have some really good ideas for free local outreach for the community. Different kinds of events that other similar communities have done. I also reached out to, I haven't heard back from them yet, but I found in this area, there's a Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Clubs, and they coordinate things like educational events. They do star parties once a month, which I think would be fantastic. They are generally supporting the east side of Michigan, but you know, in reading about what they do, it seems like they would be supportive of doing something out here as well. And again, this is just a group of astronomer hobbyists that are looking to spread awareness. So I reached out to them. And so I'm still waiting to hear back from them. And then finally I reached out to, there's a Shoreline Amateur Astronomical Association in Holland. Yeah, they have public observatory nights, and they meet September through May. I think the second Thursday of the month. So I think I'm going to attend one of their meetings since they're going to be kicking off here soon, just to see what kinds of things that they do. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some pretty good ideas for things that we might be able to do in the fall timeframe. And yep, I think that's it. So I did bring hard copies, like I said, of my informational page. I think we'll hold off on trying to do anything with that until we have a reason to do something with it, like something that we're officially planning. But I can send it out to everybody in email so that you guys can take a look at it. If you have any suggestions or anything to add, I'd be happy to do that.
Be great, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love those ideas.
Yeah.
I think, is it okay for us to basically schedule some kind of an outing like that? Lauren, I always look to you. Is there any?
I mean, it sounds like we have some more information to gather.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
like
we
if you
want
could-
this to be at no cost to the community or, you know, anything like that. We wouldn't want to be engaging people to work. It would be a volunteer and free event. So that's what I'm trying to gather information on. So you
I
know,
mean, would
that's.
it make sense at some point, for Judy and others, to make a presentation to council at a workshop or anything, just about?
Like I said, once we have more information and we have something that, we might want to get on a calendar, and then if it's an event, then you put together your application for, an event application, and it goes through city, council that way. And usually it's just a matter of, you have to do a safety meeting and all of that good
Yes,
stuff. So,
yes.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, next on there is Blue Star Trail update. So we did have our big fundraiser, the Friends of Blue Star Trail, last August 11th. And it was very successful. So thank you very much to all of you who came or just basically supported us. But we were able to, we still don't have quite the final numbers, but we were able to clear over $100,000. So
That's wonderful.
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
and I think the people who really chair the event, they do a fantastic job. So very appreciative of that. And then yesterday was the actual, as far as something substantive happening on the trail, making progress. So that was the view shed, they called it, with the tribal representatives. So that was something that Ryan and Daniel DeFranco were able to participate in, along with C2AE representative, our engineer on the project, met with the tribal people, spoke, the representatives, and they were actually out on the trail looking to see what, and learn more about what the concerns are. So I don't really know how that went.
It was
because
very
wasn't
positive.
there.
Yeah.
But I definitely have, been harassing Brian to give me more information. So I can't divulge anything because I don't know anything. But at least it's progress that happened. So I think that's probably all there is on the Blue Star Trail.
Mhm.
Okay, Scott, DPW update. Oh, wait, did we put, yeah, you're after that. Okay. You're E. Right, go ahead, Scott.
Sure. Yeah, we've been busy. Summer's kind of, we're at the tail end of summer, at this point, but we've had some pretty good successes too. So I think I reported at the last meeting, we took possession of our new CAT front end loader. We've had it for a little bit. This one's different from our previous one, that it has a quick attach front end on it. We also bought what's called a Tink attachment. So it can basically go up to some brush piles and grab a hold of it and pick it up in one shot and put it in the back of a dump truck. And we did a pilot test during the brush and leaf collection for August, and it was a huge success. I think there were like 52 piles that we picked up with it, made really good timing. We eliminated the need to have the backhoe in our brush and leaf collection program, which reduces emissions, it reduces wear and tear, tire wear, that sort of thing. But also too, it reduced the inconvenience for the motorists too, because we were able to have the whole moving convoy confined into one lane of traffic. So because we're able to load the dump trucks from the back of it versus from the side, which would take up a couple lanes before. So we're not exactly sure how it's going to go during like the peak fall collection when there's just massive leaf piles out there. But at least for every other point in the year where it's just normal brush piles, we're able to pick up all that material very efficiently. So very happy about that. We have a new hire at Public Works. This is our administrative project coordinator, and she's here. She's right there. That's Michelle Gibson. She's worked here for 3 weeks now and come back every day. So we're very happy to have her. She's a very welcome addition to the staff up there. We definitely could use the administrative support. So, and on top of that, we offered, and it was accepted, an equipment operator maintenance worker position to an AJ Brown. He is currently working for the city of Douglas on their seasonal staff. And prior to that, he worked for Mackinac City on their seasonal staff too. So he's very excited to work for Public Works in our parks. He's more geared towards the lawn maintenance, which is a big job. So the guy that resigned to take a different opportunity closer to home, we jokingly called him our Parks Department. He was just one person, but so we have a new Parks Department. And we do still have a vacancy with that hybrid position. It's the equipment operator, maintenance worker, Oval Beach manager position. Still maybe trying to rethink that a little bit, but we do have some applicants for that, but we're going to have to do another round of interviews for that position. So The good news for that is that we have time on our side before next season. The number, I have, I think every year we order like 50,000 day passes for Oval Beach. And the Oval Beach staff came into my office late last week and picked up the remaining tickets. So I think we're on track to sell pretty close to 50,000 day passes out there. So at $15 a pop, that's 750,000. That's not including concession. Or seasonal passes.
Great.
So numbers are tracking really well for Oval Beach this year. Linda Boltman, she had worked for the city for over 10 years managing Oval Beach. She came back and helped us out this year, and she's completely willing to help train the new manager for next year too. So successful year out there. And then exciting news, we had our Mount Bald Head restroom kickoff meeting late last week. It looks like work is planning to begin mid-September.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so
That's great news.
knock down those restrooms soon and get to work.
No historic value to those bathrooms?
Not
yet.
I mean, like the rotten wood, you could probably crumble it apart and maybe plant some plantings and we don't really know. What we know, what I've always been told, what I was always told is that used to, back in the 50s, it was, and prior to the 50s, it was acceptable to discharge sewage into rivers.
Oh,
And yeah, you asked. So, don't ask questions if you know. No, but so that was actually a kind of, I think like an incinerator type of pump, or just some sort of grinding pump. That was, out of use. The Kalamazoo Lake Sewer and Water plant was formed. And that pump was out of commission, and basically they took the building that the pump was in and drug it across the parking lot and turned it into a restroom, and that's what we've been using ever since. So it has lived an interesting life.
History.
yes.
So yeah, really excited to see that start to take shape.
Do you think they could break ground this fall? Is that the plan?
That's the plan, yeah. Mhm.
Right, guys?
Yeah, there might, I think what we talked about in the meeting is that they really think that they're gonna get to like the 80% or so, or substantial completion point, maybe by like the end of November, and then still have some like loose ends, like landscaping and stuff like that to do in the spring. So generally speaking, that's the timeline, so.
Great.
Also, part of the project too is just minimizing the disturbance to the soil over there. So there's some extra steps that we're taking just with like ground penetrating radar and that type of thing, just to identify where utilities are and that sort of stuff. But really excited to have the kickoff meeting. That's when it all starts coming together. But asphalt repairs, every year, the city engineer and I, we go around and we kind of do what we call our ugly road tour. That's where we identify roads that have really poor asphalt condition, but maybe some good utilities or decent utilities underneath. So we'll go through and mark candidate roads for what I call mill and overlay. They'll usually mill off the top 1.5 inch layer of asphalt, get down to a good base layer, and then repave a new road surface with HMA asphalt, hot mix asphalt. So we try to squeak that in, between Labor Day and when the asphalt plants close down. So this year, we're going to be recommending to council Lucy Street. There's a small chunk of Lucy Street that we need to take a look at and redo. The Wicks Park parking lot, that's probably overdue for some resurfacing work. And then the dead end of Hoffman Street, that's west of Water Street, it's gone. So there's no argument on that one. And also no known utilities at this point underneath that road surface. So while we're doing those, we're also checking for lead service lines. Obviously, we have lead and copper rules to comply with from the state. No one likes tearing into fresh asphalt to dig pipes underneath them. So, and then on top of that, Public Works presented the holiday lighting expansion to council. Put some different options together, and it sounds like we're renewing the contract for these are the tree wrap lights that you see along Butler Street and Culver Street. Those will continue on as normal, some lighting over at Wicks Park, but then council approved the additional streets of Water Street and Hoffman Street from Water to Butler, since it has a nice tree canopy. So,
Nice. That's great Great job, you guys.
All I got.
The Convention and Visitors Bureau as well for their grant that we were able to ask for and they granted to us. So
And how long will that run? Because I noticed, I mean, it gets earlier and earlier, so.
The lights?
Yeah, when does it go live?
So we try to encourage them to start installing them right after Labor Day. They might not turn them on right away.
Right.
Yeah, we've done it in different ways in the past, so I'm not exactly sure where we landed this year. Usually we try to, I think as they install them, they've been leaving them on, which has been successful. Usually we've done it a different way where we tried to coordinate it with like the tree lighting ceremony at the end of November, but we're like, if the lights are there, they're already installed, let's get them on.
Yeah, I think it helps people go out and shop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it sure is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Okay, so then we added to our agenda that Keith was going to give us some update on invasive species.
Well, the city graciously gave us a little webpage on their website it's called City of Sagatuck's Invasive Species. And we now have 10 invasive species on, of which we all contributed to. Everything from Asian bittersweet down to purple livestripe.
Oh, wow.
And, if you go on, anybody can go on. It lists the name, why it's invasive, a remedy, and disposal, of which the disposal for purple livestripe might not be that easy. But I think it's a start. And I think it's great, and it really lists what's in our area. And I did some homework. Of course, I got it off all the internet, Michigan State. I did not go to michiganfloral.net, but which I will. And I should have brought this up under you, Scott, but there's some, and feel free to look it up if you want to add anything. We can add anything. It's really easy. Sarah did all the work. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I gotta find it now. I came up with a really nice list of deer resistant plants, of which the deer eat everything. I've got it right here. Deer do eat everything. And it's basically what they don't like, but which they're eating, is strong smells, fuzzy foliage, poisonous properties. And then I listed a whole bunch of stuff for which you read and which you hopefully you all read. And I would like you guys to go through this again. And I'll go through it again, but I've listed everything from like native and deciduous shrubs to trees to shrubs to flowering shrubs to flowers. Unfortunately, boxwoods in there. The deer don't eat my boxwoods for some reason. But we do have a lot of deer, and what I like about this is since Sagatuck partnered with Douglas and the township to kind of like force or eradicate our little mammal friends. But we do have a lot, and they're on the hill, they're in my backyard, they sleep in my backyard, I live a half a block from the high school. They're everywhere. I mean, we've got mom and 2 fawns, and now we've got 2 bucks and a doe hanging out. I mean, and they don't go far. I mean, they just hang out and they, however they come, but I'd like to see if I could ask Lauren if they could get, once our committee goes through this, if we could get a similar page, if I could put this up as an informational page. It won't be kind of the same way. Every plant will not have a picture and a remedy. It'll just be like an informational advisory page. And if we could if the city's willing to give us permission to put up an advisory page right near the invasive species page underneath it.
Yeah, I
It'd
can't
kind of be nice.
see why you wouldn't be able to do that. If it's just like another link, that
Yeah.
would make sense.
And that's basically it.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, I have 1,000 other things I want to do.
no, but that's great.
I did want to go back to the Natural Harbor area. Is there any plan for signs, trail signs on that currently?
There, not currently. I think what we were waiting for was that at one point, we talked about doing some temporary signage, just to get some markings out there for this year, but like from staff perspective, I think the city manager is going to be working closely with council on kind of a bigger picture, like branding of the city, including like the city logo, Also working with the township and the city of the Village of Douglas on creating similar signage, not, you know, similar theme, but maybe slightly different to one another to have a differentiator, but, so,
If there's
No,
a way.
not yet.
So if we're working with all three communities, it might take a little time. So there's a way we could get some temporary signage out there. Because it's about to become dog season. And dogs are not allowed out there. They're not even allowed on the beach, and everybody and their brother brings their dogs out there. And you've got a migration season about to start. The reverse migration season for the birds is coming into effect. So is there a way we could theoretically, not even theoretically, is there a way we could get some temporary signage out there, especially with the no dog thing?
You know, there was talk of that.
Do we have to ask permission?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
I'll have Scott talk to Ryan about that.
I was just curious about this whole, logo and, signage. Do we have a timeline on that? Just
It's on
curious.
this year's strategic plan.
I know,
so,
but I just thought, well, we were kind of paused and waiting for it and,
Mhm.
it hasn't been that long, but I know sometimes things.
We're already
Like,
starting
yeah.
to I'm doing this too, with some of the projects that we have. I'm like, we're already starting to talk about capital improvements planning, winter presentations to council, thinking about projects for next year. So, but the next strategic planning session is probably going to be in January. So I would assume there'd be some progress on it before then.
So who's working on the logo?
The
Don't have anybody yet.
Manager was.
We haven't engaged with a consulting firm or anything on that yet. Okay.
Nope.
That's it?
Okay. All right, that concludes all the items on the agenda. So that brings us to, except for public comment. And is there anyone who would like to make a comment?
It's Randy DeRosa, 455 Mason Street. Just want to reiterate my support for the Pocket Prairie Initiative and the Mason Street site. As we discussed, my partner Mike and I would be happy to volunteer to help water once anything, during establishment period. We'd pull in Tracy and Jason Meyer across the street. And just thinking about, the city, if the city were to make this initial upfront investment, it would want some assurance of success so we could talk about formalizing that in some way, just so, we don't, I don't leave for 3 weeks and, let it burn out and, so just wanted to put that on the record and I'll stay in touch and help out any way I can in the interim. Nancy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Randy.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room have a comment? And I don't think we have anyone online. All right, so that concludes public comment. Did we have correspondence?
We did.
We did about Oval Beach.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the packet though.
I didn't see.
So we
it.
received it in between meetings.
Oh, that was, yes.
And could not find that on,
Okay,
in my email. but-
I'm gonna
Um,
forget the gentleman's name that sent it
It's
in.
Ned, I probably can find it.
Yeah. You responded, Keith. I also responded. So I did speak with, and Scott, feel free to pop in on this.
Can
So.
you review what was in?
Oh, so what was in the letter that was sent to the PPW members was that there were a ton of tents and umbrellas at Oval Beach that were sort of blocking access to the shoreline and blocking views and just really crowded. And so the question was, is it time to look at policies out there? Because it just kind of felt like a not as friendly of an environment. I did talk with Oval Beach staff when I was out there the last few times that I was kind of hiking through and just said, hey, did you notice anything different in terms of when you guys did your beach walks? Did you notice that people were putting things closer to the shoreline than what they have in years past? Did anyone complain? What has been your general experience this summer? And the two people I spoke with said it was kind of par for the course, that, there are certain days where it is very crowded. It was a very hot summer, very dry summer. So people were putting up tents just to get a little bit of shade out there. They did not have anyone come to them in a disgruntled manner, and they were able to access the shoreline to do their walks as they, are trained to do by Scott's staff. I think it's something to be aware of. I don't, personally think that we need to do anything with it right now. I know that Oval Beach is very busy, as Scott, talked about, that we've sold a lot of passes this summer, and depending on when this resident was out there, there's just certain times where it's going to be very busy. But I felt obligated at the very least just to have a conversation to see if anything really has changed, right? And it didn't sound like it with my N of 2, right? So
All
I don't know
you
if
have
you
any
wanna speak to
comments,
it.
Scott, or?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard any complaints about it. We've got handful of complaints, the usual stuff, people, smelling pot out there or, stuff like that, drinking, bathroom cleanliness, that sort of thing, but not really much in the way of like obstructing the water or anything like that. So,
Mostly they just call it ask if they can have them. They don't.
If they could have an umbrella.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can see if you
Like you
can't.
said, it was very hot summer. I mean, it was just so hot.
Big
People.
beach, spread out. You
Yeah.
don't have to be right in the
And
middle.
then, yeah.
Walk a little.
His name was Ned Crowley. Or his probably still is. What I suggested, what I didn't suggest, what I've seen at like folk music concerts and other beaches is that there's sometimes like 30 or 40 or 50 feet back from the beach, they don't allow tents. Or there's a section that they allow tents or, the sunshades. And at concerts, sometimes at concerts, they'll allow beach chairs, but up
Mhm.
front, but no tents, and then sunshades. And then back, you can put up your canopies. So some people are putting up canopies too down there. So there's ways around it, there's ways to regulate if you want to be regulated.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, for my own personal reasons, I didn't go to the beach this summer. But I have in the past, sometimes if people put umbrellas too close and you're really trying to walk the water's edge, that would be annoying. So that's why I didn't know if it had gotten worse or anything.
Yeah, that's what I'd specifically asked about is like, are people really creeping on the shoreline where you can't even do your, security walks and things like that? And employer was like, no, nothing. And he'd been there 5 summers.
I read it as
Some
someone who had an
employees, so.
unfortunate experience that they were sitting somewhere and someone went in front of them and put up an umbrella.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't see.
Yeah.
Those are.
And that's annoying, but
Umbrellas are one thing because you can see beyond them, but I understand the
Tents.
concern of having a bunch of like you have your family there and somebody comes and pitches a tent in front of you for shade for themselves, but they're blocking everybody's view and
Yeah.
He
We're gonna
did
get
get
some
a
of that.
picture. There are
Yeah.
some big.
Yeah.
tents
yeah,
out
there
there.
are. Like I hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
But I did drive through the beach a couple of times after we got this email and noticed that there are a ton of tents out there.
I've never heard of that. I mean, that was really new to me.
I've not seen
Yeah,
that.
it's just with the wind, the umbrellas just go.
Yeah, fly away.
So those are like sturdier. For the
Thanks,
wind.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so no other correspondence. All right, committee member closing comments. Lauren,
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Kelly?
Okay, I have a couple things. Okay, another thing that I saw on Facebook, it was a while back now, and it was someone talking about Park Street access, which is obviously something that this committee has worked on in terms of trying to find safe passage for our walkers and bikers, as well as safe passage down Pyramid to the beach. And one of the things that I just want to mention to this group, and whether we want to do more with it or not, is that we actually do have a trail to the beach. It's the John Woolham Trail, right? And we don't advertise it as such, but if you think about it, if you go to the state park, those are rustic trails that take a while and some thought for families to get their things out there, but plenty of people go to the beach that way, right?
That's a
And so-
long trail. too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, John Woolham is a more winding trail, but it's not that the city doesn't have anything, right? We have that institute, even the portion from sort of the Chain Ferry to Perryman, if you walk that, that's a little bit easier path than the other side, the north side of the trail. But that even gets you a good portion closer to the beach where it's a safe way to kind of access that. So anyway, I'm gonna throw that out there because, obviously it was like a kind of intense discussion online about like, oh, the city and they need to do all these things. But we do have some of these things. We just maybe aren't putting the narrative out there to the public in the right way that people can walk in down a path that's specific to hikers and walkers. So anyway, I want to put that out there for future discussion. We talked about Saugatuck Harbor natural area. September 19th, we have the Environmental Stewardship Day that I'll talk with Scott more about, and I've talked with Ryan. So that is part of the 8th graders community service. And we've decided that we will go out and do trail maintenance at the Wild. So I know I've contacted some of you. I would love for anybody who can participate as a lead to come and be part of that. It'd be like 8:45 to like 10:30 in the morning. And we'll do it just like we've done in the past, where the kids will be divided up into groups. We'll have outdoor discovery out there. They can talk about biodiversity and trail management, and then we'll sort of break into groups and do some weeding, some general trail maintenance. And I've talked with the new principal at the middle school, high school, and he's very interested in engaging with the city council and with the parks and things like that, and sort of adopting these spaces and getting kids out in nature. So that'll be a cool thing. And then also, I'll make this very brief. So Kalamazoo River Greenway, we've touched on this briefly. So that is a regional plan that was activated in 2018. It was done by a state rep and Eagle, which is the environmental governing body for the state of Michigan. It was 2018 when it was published, and now it sort of went flat with COVID. Well, that has been re-energized. So there's now 5 funding partners, which the city of Saugatuck is one of them. The township, Douglas, Fenville, and Rotary have come in to basically have ODC Network come in as a consultant to bring everyone together on all of these great park projects that we're working on, and have a public facing narrative of like, hey, look at all this stuff that we're doing, and we're working collectively, and we're creating efficiencies through this. So really the goal of that is to create more conservation, restoration, education, and recreation along the river, as well as connected green spaces. So anyway, I put that out there. It's exciting. We had our stakeholder meeting last week, which Lauren so graciously was a part of. And there will be more to come on that. And I would love to maybe do a short presentation on that to this group, maybe in the fall when we're not as busy, just so you're all clued in. And then obviously I would love to have you take part in it as well.
I want to do the ride the bus thing.
I know, it's gonna be fun.
She'll tell you more about
Yes,
that.
yeah. So,
Get on the
so
bus.
that's it on my end. Thank you everyone for all your work. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're not next, or you last?
No, I always get to go last.
Actually, I said everything during my presentations. The deer resistant plants, the city's website. I'll pat myself in the back for that, because I was only doing one a week. I
Thank
think this. I think the Dark Skies Initiative thing would be great. I'd like to see it more local and pinpointed, because you know, we have an owl in the neighborhood, and he shows up when all the neighbors turn off their outside lights. And he doesn't show up when they don't. But yeah, I think everybody's doing a good job. I think we've taken some good strides right now. That's it.
Brian?
I don't have much to say. Great meeting. It's always nice to be here with all of you. And that's it.
Okay, Judy?
Nothing new for me. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot new either. I feel like we are making some good headway on the initiatives, that we set out for ourselves. So I'm so happy about that. And it just got me to thinking, well, we should probably start thinking just, ahead about, well, what would be our projects to add on? And, are there things that we would want to do? So just start kind of thinking, I know I'm very conservation, environmentally oriented, but what else is there that we could be doing, park-wise that, would be good for our town and, our residents and our visitors? And, just kind of, I don't know, a little brainstorming or something of what else could we be doing? More parks?
More. No.
More parks, but I need more staff too.
Yeah.
So.
So yeah, just like.
More
Right.
land.
More land, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Township.
So yeah, I feel like but we should just start even thinking about, well, what else?
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
yeah, okay. Scott, do you want to add anything?
No, I think it's great and very forward thinking. Like I said, sounds so weird, but we're at the end of August, so a few months from now, it's going to be pretty gray and ugly out there. We'll be talking about strategic planning, and so I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about what we could always make recommendation to council during their strategic planning what we think the priorities would be.
Okay, great. All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Bruce?
Yeah.